Hello and welcome to Finger Thinking, a channel dedicated to analog productivity and creativity tools. Okay, so today I have a couple of pens that are brand spanking new. Now they are online brand fountain pens, and yeah, the name is a little confusing. I did some background research, and these are German pens, so they're a family owned company who's been around since 1991, and in 1991 the word online wasn't a big word like it is today, and so they thought they were being quite clever with the name, and of course it's a writing implement with the line, word line in the title, and then it's just turned out that now online is just means something else, and is used in every second sentence that we say. So that's going to be a little bit confusing in this video. I'll try and say on the internet if I'm referring to anything on the internet, but sorry if I mess it up and confuse you. Anyway, so yeah, so this brand's been around for, let's do the sums, what's that, 34 years. So quite a period of time, like it's not a Parker or a Waterman or any of those brands that have been around for hundreds of years, but good on them. So online, I'm only familiar with seeing the fountain pens and like their kind of ballpoint and rollerball lines, which are also carried at Officeworks, also on clearance at Officeworks. But having a look at their German website, they have a huge range of stationery products. So that was a surprise, but yeah. So I think they're also pitched more at these are pretty price effective, cost effective. They're everyday tools and more for kind of younger people. A lot of their ranges are the kind of student college level pens, not the really fancy pens. But yeah, so let's talk about the price. So these were $19 each. That is on clearance. They were, when I first started collecting fountain pens a bit over 2 years ago, they started out, I remember they were $32.95. And then they've gone up to, I think they hit $36.95 with post-COVID pricing. They may have hit $39. I kind of stopped paying attention. But yeah, so on clearance, they're now about half price. So anyway, that meant I thought it was time to try them, as I don't like paying full price for anything. So I have two. I have an Air and a college range pen. So we'll open them up in a sec, but at a glance, the Air is a triangular pen, and the college is round. However, in the ranges and the pricing online, so the retail pricing for the Air is €13.99, and then the retail pricing for the college is €9.99. So yeah, they're cheap pens. They're not quite as cheap as my favorite Chinese pens, but they're getting down into that range. So they're substantially cheaper than a Lamy or anything like that. So it will be interesting to compare the pens. I have these in MNib. One thing, I thought that was just because every pen you buy at Officeworks and Fountain Pen, they're all MNibs. They don't seem to carry any FNibs. But having a look at the website, it appears that most of their pens are available in M-nibbed only. Some of them are also available in a left-hander nib. I don't know what the difference is there, or if it's got more to do with, say, the grip of the pen than it does with the nib itself. So, but the range of pens, fountain pens that are made by online, they go from €5.99 through to €49.99. So if your most expensive pen is €50, then yeah, this is a pretty budget brand in general. So it'll be interesting to see, because these pens are not made in China. So it's not like the Staedtler Triplus pens I reviewed the other day that were made in Germany, designed in Germany, but made in China, and one of them was rubbish. these say on the back of them that they are made in the EU. Now on their website, they say they do most of their production in Newmarket in Germany, which is down in Bavaria. But with most, that leaves room for some to be produced elsewhere. So because these don't say made in Germany, they just say made in the EU. I suspect that these aren't made in Germany and they're probably made kind of more eastern. So I don't know, Poland, Bulgaria, Slovenia, maybe one of those countries. Anyway, but it will be interesting to see what the quality is like. Okay, I'm going to chop the tops off these and we'll have a look. Because yeah, they're got this. They're heat sealed. Okay, so we should be able to see these a little bit better now. I think the light was reflecting off the cover, but yeah, you get a pen and a lid and then an online cartridge. Now, if you've watched any of my other fountain pen videos, there's a good chance that you know that I'm a big fan of their cartridges because they are dual-ended. So here's an empty one and it has an international standard fitting at one end and then Alamy fitting at the other. I don't know which end you use in the online pans. We're about to find out. But if you are interested in the ink, they do. These are. I have 5 colours of it, so I kind of whoops a daisy: the blue, the black, the purple, the green, and the red. And yeah, so they in Australia, so again made in the EU. In Australia, you buy them in 2 packs of 5 for $10. However, you can only get the blue and the black in the shop. The green, the purple and the red I had to buy on Amazon and it worked out to be about the same price. It might have been $4 a packet. All right, so so I'm going to start with the college one first. So one of the things I was a bit excited about, it was because these are on clearance, my selection options were limited. And I ended up going to 2 different Officeworks stores and they had literally in each one, they had 1 fountain pen left. And I think it was this one I had to search behind. It was in the wrong spot. I had to search behind all of the ballpoint pens to find it, but it was meant to be for me. So I have just a stainless steel nib and I also have an anodized nib. And I've commented before in other videos how much I like writing with anodized nibs. So we'll be able to do a direct comparison and see if it makes any difference. All right. Okay, so if we have a look at the pen itself, it's pretty basic. It's quite a thick pen. It's a little bit thicker than I typically like, but that doesn't surprise me because it is a student range pen. It is also really, really light. So this is really thin plastic. And it comes with another cartridge. Oh, it comes with 2 cartridges. That's exciting. So everything about this pen is student, right? So we have kind of a plastic threaded section that feeds into a plastic plastic grip section. There is a rubber kind of one of those kind of triangle-ish overlays to get your pen holding right. But everything plastic. We look at the pen barrel, plastic. The end is plastic. So I think that clip is chromed plastic as well. And then we've got a little sticker and a barcode on here. All right, so if you put the pen back together though, and have a look at it from top to bottom. So the pen, yeah, so this has a bit of a pattern, diamond pattern on the body of the pen. I don't know how well the camera picks that up. this pen comes in a bunch of different patterns. I think you can get the black, but the lines of the diamonds are in blue or silver, but nothing fancy. I did have to have a chuckle actually, because the website, it's from, I don't know, different time, slightly different culture, because it still has boy pens and girl pens. I wish the boy pens are all blue and the girl pens are pink. So that was a bit of a surprise, being 2025, but oh well, is what it is. So the cap is straightforward. It's a two-piece cap. I'm not going to take this sticker off on camera just in case it leaves residue. And then the clip does actually work all right, though it's going to snap at some point in time. We have online branding here in a different plastic section, which is okay. So it looks like, just in case you care, then this kind of matte plastic is one bit, and this online is part of this mold, and then this chromed clip just sits over the top, and then the pen cap and the body, it's not super. So just in case you want to know, there is a bit of a like a difference in that's not super smooth. So there's a slight difference in alignment between the pen cap and the body, the barrel, but that is neither here nor there. And then we've got the end cap, which is pretty basic. So that looks like it's going to be designed to post your pen, which it does. And to be fair, if you are, and you can post it 360 degrees, there's no particular spot you have to post it. I don't know if that's going to pick up on camera, but sorry about that. The garbage truck's going past. So yeah, that is balanced pretty nicely. I don't like to post my pens, and certainly with the metal pens that I prefer, it just changes the balance completely. But if we look at, well, let's just do a test. So if I line that up nicely, that's where I would hold the pen, and if we look at where that is, that actually sits right on my knuckle. That balances really well. So I'm going to assume that's some German engineering, and that's just not by accident. So yeah, if you like to post your pens, you're going to, I think, be really happy with this pen. All right, so let's look at the nib. The nib is, no, it's just a medium nib. It's certainly not big. It's not like my it's not like my Faber-Castell student pen, which is massive. For example, if actually they're about the same size. I always looked at this Faber-Castell nib and thought, gee, it's huge. This is on a Grip 2010, but no, they are the same size. So maybe that is a standard German school size pen. If I compare it to, say, the Jinhao 88, and yeah, look, again, it's the same size nib. So yeah, all right. Well, that was a perception that existed only in my head and not in reality, huh? So anyway, so the nib itself, it does say online is engraved on the nib, and it actually says online Germany in really small writing underneath it. Otherwise, it is a pretty plain nib. The feed, it's a pretty standard feed. There's nothing, there we go, there's nothing fancy about that. Okay. If we have a look at the air, so yeah, so this is a triangle pen. So this already feels more like a child's pen. And if you are someone who holds your pen differently, then this may not be the most comfortable pen for you, but so far so good. I just hold my pen like this anyway. With my quite large adult hands, they fit quite nicely on this section. So it is an ergonomic section. So it does, it's not just flat on the sides, it does dip in, and it is like a little bit concave there. It's definitely a shaped section here. So that fits nicely. This pen, it does post, but unlike the other one, which clearly balanced on my knuckle, this one's not balancing anywhere, but it does post a lot further down the pen, so there's nothing really to balance. Again, the pen itself is just a plastic construction with a little bit of this kind of, what's the word? The finish of the rubber has a word, and I can't think of what it is, but it's almost like a kind of a suede finish. It's quite soft. So I don't know if it caps a different way. Yeah, it only caps that one way, and it's a bit of a firm. I don't think the lid's not coming off anytime soon. Oh, we didn't actually check that on this one. So again, that's a pretty firm seating of the cap, and it doesn't rattle. It's not going anywhere anytime soon, but yeah, it's a lot of effort. Again, we have the clip itself is chromed plastic, though that's a much stiffer clip than we have on the college. Online Germany is stamped into the clip itself, and then the pink details. So whilst it's rubber down here, this is just matte plastic down the side of the pen and the side of the caps. So if we open it up, I'm going to find, yes, another. I love how German pens do that. It's so good. The Kavekos are the same. Everything about this is plastic. So we have a plastic thread, we have plastic section, fully plastic barrel, plastic. Let's just, yeah, and because it's a triangle, it just, I don't know if you hear it. You can hear it seat when you've turned it all the way around. In the lid we do have a plastic liner, which probably starts about here, and that is about here in the college. So that's good. So these should last well. They shouldn't dry out. But the nib itself, okay, so this is the same size as the other nib. Again, it says Online Germany. The feed is identical. So if we look at them side by side, yeah, those nibs are the same. And those feeds are the same. So really what should happen is that these nibs, these pens should write the same, they'll just feel different. So that's the next step. Let's ink these up and see how we go. Okay, so I'm back with my trusty Rhodia red paper that I always use. And I'm not going to use any kind of pre-filled ink cartridges. Let's just use one of the cartridges that came with the pen. And, okay, this is interesting. So these pens are a standard international fitting, because if I look at the cartridge that comes with it, it's a dual end kind of mold, but that's not to be punctured. That end is not to be used. It's just this end here with the ball bearing in it. Whereas if I look at one of their dual-ended cartridges that came out of a box, then sure, we have the ball bearing at this end, but this is designed to be punctured. So that makes it really easy. What did I do with them? I threw my section off to the side. So let's, yeah. All right. Okay, so that's respectable. We've had pens start faster, and then I've had pens that took almost the whole page to start. I think the Lamies that I tested the other day took most of the page to start. Anyway, so that's good. Excellent. All right. Okay, sorry about that. I just had someone at the door, so I had to pop off for a minute. But one of the things that we can see is, this is just a bit of a side note. Look at the color of the ink. This is one of the reasons why I struggle with the online branded blue ink, is that's quite faded now. If I do this again, it's quite a different, hopefully that picks up on camera, but it's quite a different color. But anyway, let's continue the writing test. So it's quite a wet ink. So my favorite, the Jinhao, sorry, the Wordsworth and black ink isn't quite that wet. Let's see. Oops. Okay, so what I notice about writing with this nib is it's actually a little bit squeaky. So certainly on the upstroke, I'm hoping the microphone picks it up. I'm not completely sure if it will. It's certainly the squeakiest nib that I have ever had in my life, but it writes okay. So it writes okay. It's probably, honestly, I can, so far I can already feel that this is a slightly cheaper nib. So if I don't know if the camera picks this up, but there's just, it's almost like the edges of this line are just not completely even. So even kind of on the L's of the college, it's like it's the pen and the nib and everything, it's feathering on this paper differently to how it feathers on other paper. And it really shouldn't feather at all because this is rhodia paper. I do have my favorite Jinhao 88 here. Let's have a look at this. So that's, okay, so one's a medium nib and one's a fine nib, but I think the integrity of the line is much better on the Jinhao. So anyway, let's try the other one and see how the air goes. Okay, so okay, so that took a lot longer to start writing. So the college pen started about a third of the way across the page, whereas the air started 2/3 of the way across the page. So I was going to make the comment that it looks like the air puts down less ink than the college does. And that was just from the ink smudge test, because that's a much longer smudge and the ink was on the paper for the same period of time. But this is, even though this is an M nib, it's a finer nib already to write with. And I'll do a couple of squiggles next to each other so that I can zoom in and show. All right, so already I've got a complaint about this. Because it's a triangle pen, I can't just stick the nib on it any old way. I have to be paying attention. Not the nib, stick the lid on any old way. I have to be paying attention that it's all aligned up when I go to use it. All right, so this is the... Again, I've just done it again. So if we look at those, I actually think that's pretty clear to see that the college is, I think probably a truer medium, to be honest, than the air. So even on the college, even on the upstrokes, it's a pretty even line, whereas on the air, on the upstrokes, it's a much finer line, and on the downstrokes, it's still a finer line than the college. So this is more in line, excuse me, with a fine nib that I prefer. That this pen doesn't come in a fine nib, so that's pretty interesting. Let's see. On the back, that's a very, very fine line. All right. Okay, so that, yeah, this writes much closer to a fine nib, and it's not squeaking. So let's... I can't get that to squeak, whereas let's try the college again. Okay, so that didn't seem to squeak that time, but it certainly has more feedback. So that's really interesting. It's really interesting for the two pens which ostensibly have the same nib, but one is steel and one is the anodized steel. They do definitely write differently. So I don't know why anodizing makes it a softer nib. That's kind of a bit of materials engineering that I don't remember from first year. But curiously, like even if we look at the nibs, like the underside of the nib, can this pick it up? Like they're still both polished. Like I don't know. Let's get my loop out. I'll be back in a sec. Okay, let's try this on camera. So this is the air nib. And I'm just trying to see if the anodizing is over the end of the actual, the tip of the nib, but I don't think it is. So this is the college one. This is the air. And I'm trying to see if they're both, basically the actual bit that you write on is stainless steel on both of them at that very, very end point that comes into contact with the paper. But the, goodness, does that work if I zoom it in? I definitely think that the air on the right hand side is a slightly finer tip than the college. So anyway, I think that's interesting, but it's definitely a very different writing experience. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go and spend some time this afternoon doing some more writing with these pens, and then I will come back and give you my final thoughts. Okay, so I have spent some time doing some writing off camera. I have some opinions, but it occurred to me I hadn't done any writing on camera using just cheaper paper. So I'll just do that quickly now, and then we'll get to my final thoughts. So that wasn't too bad, actually. That was, for some reason, this is actually the line kind of consistency issue that I was complaining about on the Rhodia paper. I don't seem to be getting that on this cheap Amazon paper. Oh, okay. It's taking a while for the ink to dry though, because I just smudged over here. So it does have a smoother line, and it actually wrote very nicely on this cheap Amazon paper. On some of the other cheap paper that I tried it on, this college pen, it was like writing with a Sharpie. It just absorbed so much ink from this medium nib. Anyway, so look, but that was all right. That did pretty well. So I will try the air. Okay, so look, so these do write quite differently. I even pulled them back out and just double checked that they were both an M nib, because there is such a variation in the line. I'm really sorry if there's bird noise in the back of this video. The cockatoos are going nuts. All right, but we can see it in the line width here. So like on the Rhodia paper earlier, it's a much more consistent line width with the college pen than with the air pen. Like there is a little bit of variation. This was slightly smoother, but on most of the other paper that I wrote on, the air was better. Now I did do some writing in, I'll just zoom out, in a roll barn notebook. I haven't done a review of those on this channel yet, but they're pretty decent notebooks actually. So I just had a quick look. So the roll barn notebooks, even though they sound German, they're actually Japanese. But yes, I'll do a review on those one day in the future. But they're pretty nice. And on that paper, the medium nib worked much nicer. So that wrote really nicely. And I thought the fine nib was getting a bit fine. And then when I wrote with stuff like the Hongdian Black Forest or the Hero, the fake Hero, they were just far too fine. It was like writing with a needle. So yeah, so that basically, so these are written okay. I have no issues with skipping or ink feed or anything. Like they start every time. Let's just, what I will do, one thing I haven't done is I will leave the caps off of these for 10 minutes and then we'll be back and we'll see what they're like after 10 minutes without the cap on. Okay, well, it's actually been 13 minutes, but let's give it a go. It's not too hot here today. It's been a little bit overcast and it's only about 23, 24 degrees. So the college writes fine. The air writes fine. Okay, so it looks like nibs drying out on short periods of time is not a big issue with these pens, but that just wrote so well so quickly. I will be back in 30 minutes this time and we'll see how we go. Okay, so it's been another 30 minutes. Let's see how these pens go. So the college is just fine. And the air skipped a little bit on that first stroke, but otherwise, yep, still fine. All right, I think it's time for final thoughts. Okay, online fountain pens. Are they a yay or nay? Look, they're $19 each Australian. They probably aren't going to make my top 10 favorite fountain pens. Like, they're okay, they're fine, but they are clearly a student fountain pen. And to be fair, online isn't pretending that they're anything but a student fountain pen. And look, coming from Australia, we don't use fountain pens over here at school, though my understanding is in Europe they still do. So yeah, okay, they're probably perfectly fine. And I don't know how much other student fountain pens are in Europe, but they may be a very cost-effective option. And they're completely fine, like they write okay. There's nothing special about them. You're not going to be sitting here writing with a plastic pen that weighs a couple of grams and go, ooh, this is a really satisfying writing experience. It's going to be like driving a really boring, bland, generic car. They're fine. They write words, but there's just not an exciting writing experience. This pink one, the Air, this triangle cap, this really annoys me. Because every time I pick it up to put it back on, I'm always putting it on in the wrong spot. And it's not as though it just has to be lined up with a triangle and it goes in. If it's not lined up with the top, so the pink stripes match up basically, it just doesn't, the cap doesn't seat. And that's too much effort. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I don't want a pen where every time I go to put the cap back on, I have to look at the pen. I've just got a bit of blue tack there because this one kept rolling over. As for the college pen, so it doesn't have that issue with the cap, but it's almost too much resistance to pull that off. Like, I need biceps to pull this off. Which is a bit silly. This pen, oh, look, it is a true medium, and it's probably a little juicy just for student paper, to be fair. So look, there's probably every pen I've reviewed on this channel so far, except for the Bauer, because it's knotted, and the Triplus, the Staedtler Triplus, because one of them was good, but one of them was just rubbish. Look, I'd be recommending all of the Chinese fountain pens that I've done so far. I'd be recommending this, the Faber-Castell Grip 2010, in a heartbeat over these. Like, even though this is plastic, it just feels nice to write with. I'm really surprised at the nib variability, like even though it's the same nib but a different color. The Air is much closer to a fine nib. So I thought that was disappointing in the inconsistency in the brand. But otherwise, look, they don't purport to be anything that they're not. This one is a pass from me. I will continue to use them and certainly use these ones and use up the ink. But unless, you're willing to mix and match these pens with a bunch of different papers to find the paper that matches, you're not going to hate the pen. You're just going to forget that it's there. It is, and that's probably the word. This is a forgettable pen. Both of them are forgettable pens. Anyway, so look, disappointing that I got to the end of the video and I can't say race out and buy them, but that would be disingenuous. So, I hope you've enjoyed the review and found it helpful. It may have saved you some money. If you want to spend money on cheap pens, check out some of my other cheap Chinese fountain pen videos. But otherwise, look, thank you again for joining me here at Finger Thinking. I would really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks again and have a great day.